What's up, y'all? Shuffle. Welcome to a Chaos Zero Nightmare guide dedicated to Faye, who is a Void Ranger that is currently the banner unit, and her banner's here for about 4 more days. So this video is a little bit late, but I do want to talk about her and show her off because I think she's actually really fun, but also I think she's going to be a really good character like as time goes on. I think she's going to age very well, and we'll talk about that. So I'll go through, the basics on her, the mechanics, the cards and all that, and then we'll talk about the builds and such, and then also teammates. And I might show some gameplay too if I can fit it in without bloating everything too much. All right. Faye. As I said, Void Ranger. And with her stats, you can go a couple ways. You can put in a lot of extra attack, like if you want to treat her such as Katie Mary or Renoa, other characters that have a lot of extra attack damage in their kits. So you could do that, but I don't think it's going to be necessary as time goes on, if that makes sense. I guess it'll make sense later when I talk about it. And I don't have her partner, but I'll talk about the partner too, because her partner is really good, obviously, for her. Otherwise, in terms of stats, you want to hit 800 attack because of her potential that we'll look at. And then as much crit chance and damage as you can get to. 50 is a good point to stop at if you can't re-roll a bunch of gear and squeeze out a little more. But if you can, then that's all the better. And crit damage, getting past 180 is really hard without like insane gear. So, don't feel too bad about that either. If you can only get to like 170, 180. I have a lot of characters sitting at that threshold as well. Like you can see Tenny, Rita's a little bit over 160. So it's not outlandish to be under 200. The potential speaking of though is with her final one up here. So when she has over 600 attack, she gets void attribute damage, and then she gets an extra 2% per 20 attack she has. And so this will give you up to 700 attack. If I'm doing the math right. I thought it was 800. It looks like 700. So yeah, 2 per each. So even though it's every 20, it's 1 per 10. So yeah, it's up to 700. So as long as you can get her over 700, that's good. And then anything else you can squeeze out into other stats like crit. And actually, since we're on this page, in terms of potential, you don't need to max everything. If you're really worried about resources, especially if you're a new player and you're trying to build units, a lot of units, and you have to get potential crystals and you just want to make them functional, then the only ones I would recommend truly maxing are the unique card damage, and then or signature card rather. I forgot they changed the name on it. And then the crit chance. The crit damage is nice. It's not as impactful comparatively to flat crit. Usually the rule in a lot of these types of games is crit rate and crit damage are also, like, they're both good, obviously. But normally you want to have crit damage and crit rate be like a 2-to-1 ratio. So every 1 crit, you want 2% crit damage. So if you look at this, since this is only 12 and not 20, to kind of match with this in more of a traditional sense, more of a feel-good sense, this one isn't as high impact as 10 crit, I would say. But obviously you want to get everything you can. So just make your way through all of this and then hit the top note here. For these here, if you're not running a common card, then you don't have to level this, but the desire cards are in right now on the preseason mechanics, so having bonuses on that is going to be really helpful, so I probably should max this. Basic cards, you don't have to upgrade this, even if you want like stronger sortie starts and chaos starts, you usually don't have to max this, unless you're going to run her with Tenebria. If you're not running a Tenny team, then you don't need to worry about basic attacks, I think, or like just basic cards. Which also means this one over here, where you get flame arts on her basic attack. You don't have to do this either, but These are like, you have to get this obviously one stack of it, and this is cheap. This is like 16, I think, blue crystal, something like that. Like the mid tier. And then these ones over here, you don't really need the basic card proficiency again, because you're not really using basic attacks. Tenebria is going to nuke them out of the deck anyway at that point. So you have to decide if you want the Divine Epiphany chance, and that really just helps with farming. However, we have tons of resources now from like Swordy and the orbs, and they keep tweaking them and adding more and all that, to where you may not even need this if you're not going to farm super aggressively for her. So at that point with potential, I would just kind of go through and just get crit damage or crit chance and the signature card upgrade, and then maybe crit damage if you really like her, and obviously this final node, and I just wouldn't touch anything else immediately unless you again like her. With partners, we're gonna see here, I don't have her partner. I'm close, but I'm kind of waiting. I may just wait to see what the next partner is, or if we get a collab or limited unit like there are rumors of, at least for collab, and the anniversary is coming up, so I'm kind of going into save mode here. With that said, her partner is absolutely super good for her and tailor-made for her. So if you are a ranger and you get to equip her, you know, you get all these bonuses here. But with the Void specifically, you know, there's only one Void ranger right now, and that's her. So this unit will only really shine with Fae. With that said, big attack boost. This happens on most, if not all, of the ranger partners. That's just something they do. They just give you attack boost. And this effect here, each time the assigned combatant creates a void attribute attack card in the draw pile, not in hand, by the way, only in draw pile, not discard, not hand, draw pile, gain 1 gentle aroma. That stacks up to 5. If you have 5 stacks, you get 40% bonus crit damage, which is really good. And then you get an extra just 50% flat damage, because it's not 2 per stack. It starts out at 5 per stack. It actually might be 10. I'm not sure. The wording is a little tricky there, and I don't have her. But 10% damage, 50% damage. I mean, any bonus is really good. And then you get 40% crit damage on top of that. So that's just really good. Just a lot of damage output. However, what I will say is, we'll talk about this later with builds. Fae has 2 ways to go. It's either damage or card draw. And I think I'm going to set her up for card draw, because I think that's what's going to last the longest in terms of meta stuff. Because damage units always get power crept eventually. It just happens. Especially after their seasons ended and the mechanics aren't tailored for them anymore. Although some will stay strong, like 9 and Diana, for example, and Haiti, of course. On to the cards. Now, things will make a little bit more sense in terms of the creating void cards and draw pile and all that. So, the big one is her 4th card, her last basic, so to speak, and it's a unique initiation buff. We've seen a few of these before on Malin, on Chizuru, and several others, I'm sure. You know, it escapes me. I know Hugo can do it, right? Just something where you start the fight with an upgrade, and they put it into your hand automatically with initiation. Seems simple enough. So when you use this, and you get to draw through an ability, you get 1 Descent stack. And Descent is an effect where when you hit 8 count, so 8 stacks of Descent, create 1 Heaven's Fall card. When Heaven's Fall is created, decrease Descent by 8, max 10 times per turn, which she can hit that. It's a little hard, but, you know, she can do it. And otherwise, the rest of the card creates 8 Inferno Rhapsodies in the draw pile. Every version of this is going to make some kind of Inferno Rhapsody, and only one of them is really different. But otherwise, you're looking at this. So you have this card here where it does okay damage, almost like a Serenial Laser, where it does okay damage, it costs 0, and you get a Flame Arts stack. And so Flame Arts is her other mechanic. where it's this fan icon and it starts out, you know, empty and then it fills up with light. So it's very easy to keep track of. And when you hit 3 stacks, she does an extra attack to the enemy that was hit last. And then when it activates, the meter empties. There are some cards, mainly the Rhapsody, but then also I think there's one other one and maybe 2 others. We'll see. But with this, when you hit the 3rd stack and trigger the Flame Art effect, if you do it with Rhapsody, when Flame Arts is activated through this card, draw 1. So you may be able to build up Flame Arts, you know, 1 or 2 levels with other cards, but then you always want to make sure you hit it with something that triggers the payoff. So that way you get your extra attack and then she draws a card, which is really good cycling. And then Heaven's Fall is the other card she makes when you draw 8 cards. She makes 1 Heaven's Fall. So that's the Descent stack. And this is just a pretty solid card that hits hard. And important to note too that it's exhaust, meaning that there are exhaust synergies out there. And in this season, we may see more. You know, we saw a lot of it in season 2 because of 9. But now we may see more as well because Faye has it. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities for this to be good, and it's a solid card in terms of damage. For the Epiphanies, the first one is the exact same as the base one, except it just gives the Rhapsody cards 50% bonus damage. So if you want these to hit a little harder, then that's good. Doesn't feel as bad to just play them. Because there is something to understand with the 0-cost cards, like Serennial Lasers, Tressa Daggers, and now these Inferno Rhapsodies, is that obviously the enemy turn count's always ticking down, and that is not ideal in a lot of fights, especially if you go to Sortie, because in Sortie you have one of the effects where if you play 4 cards, the enemy gets Fortitude, and so she can run that out like instantly, or you're fighting against Fortitude the whole time. Otherwise, this one's fine. It's solid. Like, you shouldn't be upset to get this one if you're forced to get it. I really don't see anything stand out about this that's good or bad, so it's just solid. The next one, I think, is a little bit better. And so this one will draw an Inferno Rhapsody out of the deck. You don't get the bonus damage, so that does suck, because you're losing actually a fair chunk of damage. However, the fact that it draws it out of the deck means that it just makes the deck thinner, and it does a tutor draw, which is when you go find something specific. I also call it like target draw. I think that makes a little more sense. But anyway, you can target draw these Rhapsodies out of the deck for her. So she always has one to play, but also it pulls it out of the deck, and you get a Descent stack. So that one's cool. And also, take note, most of these Inferno Rhapsody creations, you get 8 for the first 3 here, and then you get 7 for the 4th Epiphany, and then you get 6 for the 5th one, but it's a different card. So just keep that in mind. Number 1 and number 2 are pretty good. I think if you're going more of a draw utility Fae, just between these two, you want the second one. And if you're going just pure all-out damage with Fae, maybe the first one. But you need other things too that keep cycling the deck, because otherwise, I don't know. Because you also get bonus damage off the arts being maxed out. So. Number 3, this one's also really good, and I think it's because of the draw 2, obviously. So you play this, it draws 2 cards, you get your Rhapsodies. However, it costs 0. This is what makes it usable. This could even draw maybe like 3 cards. If it cost 1, I'd still be kind of hesitant, depending on the deck. But the fact that this costs 0 is really helpful. Although you can get a Divine Epiphany on the rest of these, I believe, to make them cost 0. So this isn't necessarily an entire selling point. It is nice though, because if you don't have a Divine on there, then you just play this for free, and that works really well with other characters that have a lot of stuff they do at the start of the fight. So Hugo likes to play the Hunting Instincts, and Maylin plays her bracelet. You know, there are a few initiation cards out there, and having one that's cheaper is good. So all 3 of these are solid. However, I think the ones that will kind of stand better as time goes on is this fourth one here, where you only get 7 Rhapsodies instead of 8. However, when Flame Arts is activated, you do another extra attack on the target. So if you can keep drawing out your cards and charging up the Flame Art wheel, then you get extra attack damage out of it. So if you go something like this, you could squeeze in more extra attack on your substats. But right now, all of these are just honestly solid, so it really depends on what ends up happening with the deck. This fifth one, though, I also like a lot, and I think this one, I want to play with it more, because I think it's going to be really good. This is a different version of having Damage Fae, where you're not relying on extra attacks, because the 5th Epiphany gives you just a stronger Rhapsody. It's got the Heaven variant, so it's like the first one, where you get the bonus 50% damage, right? This goes up to 132, but it's not exactly 50, because the base is like 84 for me right now, so I'm not quite sure how the math works out. Anyway, when Flame Arts is activated through this card, you get 3 Descent. So you don't draw a card, you don't do an extra attack. When you trigger it, you get 3 Descent, which is the equivalent of drawing 3 cards to give you Descent stacks. And the reason that's important is because that helps you make Heaven's Falls much faster. So it's actually not that unusual to possibly get a couple Heaven's Fall each turn if you're able to cycle through her cards very quickly and then just stack it up. So you get like, 2 or 3. And then that's really good afterwards, right? Because it's a good card and does a lot of damage. I think this one's going to be really good for a lot of builds if you don't go like extra attack. If you just want to go like raw damage. If you're moving a set around, like a 2/2/2 set that doesn't have extra attack stats, then there you go. You have that. The fourth one is also really good because of the extra attack. So if you want to go damage, these are both good for different reasons. This is good for like flat damage. 4 is good for extra attack damage. So I think after that, I think 3 is the next best one just because it draws, or it costs 0. But if you don't want to worry about the 0 cost, then 2 is also super good. I think the best ones actually are 4, 5, and 2, but I don't know what order they would be in. The other 2 are still good, but I don't see them being as useful. They're more generalist, if that makes sense. Soliloquy is a really good card. This is her next one here. So the base version is she draws 2, and of the drawn cards, she dumps any card that has a cost 1 or higher. Most of her cards cost 0 or X, meaning that she will always keep her own cards. She'll pull all the 0 costs and hold on to them. If it's an X cost, it technically has no cost, so it's going to also keep that as well. This is a really good one if you want to go more into like a discard deck, and we'll talk about those applications in a little bit. But this is really good for cycling or discarding, or both together. And as far as this goes, having the ability to dump all the 1-cost cards, this gives you access to like Renoa or Haiti Mary with Quietus and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that like to have their cards thrown away, like the moment you get them. The one final nice thing I'll say too here is that since it has to be a 0 or X cost card, there aren't a lot of X cost cards right now. I think as time goes on, maybe this season we'll have more X cards. Maybe that'll be like one of the themes. But right now we don't have too many X cards. And I think that going forward, as they add more X cards, like something such as this Soliloquy will get a lot better. Or if you have an Epiphany, a Divine Epiphany that lowers the cost to 0, then this also works because it's not going to dump it. These Epiphanies should go a little bit faster because we don't have to go through phase basic mechanics anymore, since we already covered that on the first one. Otherwise, the first Soliloquy is like most Epiphany ones where it's the base version but a little bit better, and in this case it draws 3 and discards the same way. Obviously this is going to be really good because not only do you draw 1 extra card, that's 1 extra Descent stack for her, and if you have discard mechanics somewhere that you're pulling these cards out of, then you're discarding more. You're cycling through the deck faster. And this will be really good for, again, someone like Renoa. And I'm actually really excited to talk about teams, because I think there's a lot of theory crafting to be done where she's going to show that she's really good. The next soliloquy is drawing 2 0-cost cards of this unit. So if you're going more of a damage-focused Inferno Rhapsody spamming type build with one of those other epiphanies, then just drawing your Rhapsodies quickly, totally cool. So that's a good one to have too. With the third soliloquy, activating 3 Inferno Rhapsodies in the draw pile on a target, and then you get 2 descent for each card activated. This is a little more tricky to work with, but there are ways to get around this. So people like, we'll talk. Okay. The fourth epiphany for soliloquy is you draw 1, and when a 2-cost or lower card of this unit is drawn, activate that card and draw 2. So if you have a build where she has a lot of her own cards in the deck, you have 8 Rhapsodies, and you have, whatever X card may pop up, or if she has neutral cards, common cards, then you are able to proc those and then draw 2 extra, which is really good. It also costs 0. The issue is that you have to hit her card to do it. Meaning that if you're going to run this one, ideally you have other units with her where their cards play and then start leaving the deck. They're either upgrades, they're exhaust cards, or whatever. Just something where she can always hit her own thing and keep cycling. This is a really good one, but you have to be very deck specific with it. The fifth soliloquy is draw 1 X card and then give it X+1 till used. So this is really good because she can tutor out her own X cost card. So even if you have Renoa, for example, because I'm going to keep using that example because I like Renoa, but also it's very fitting. If Renoa has 20 bullets in the deck, she can still, or Faye can still draw out one of her X cards on demand with this. Although you do have to get that card and then do that, so. It's a bit interesting. This one, I don't think is going to be super popular, I think. We don't know what's going to happen with the season yet, but I don't think this is going to be super popular until we see more X stuff. Out of the epiphanies, I guess, if I want to talk about which ones are really good, I think number 2 and number 1 are both, really, really good. I think 2 is... I think these are both the easiest to use. Because you get the discard synergy with 1, and then if you want to keep her on damage, then you keep her with the second soliloquy, so she can pull Rhapsodies and some other 0-cost. Like another draw engine. She can pull another soliloquy and just, rip through the deck. But none of these are bad, I would say. I think 3 is going to be the hardest to pull off, though. But also has the most payoff. So who knows? Yeah, the 2-cost card thing, she does have 1 2-cost variant, and it's on Soulfire, and it's over here. But we're not at Soulfire yet. Night Rain. You get 1 Flame Arts, and Streak is the new combo. Because we had 2 forms of combo before as a keyword. The first one was on Gear Bag, where if you play something else, like if another person plays a card, then that one activates immediately, just as the combo. And we had combo where if you use the same attributes in order, that it would power up. So that was with Malin back in the day. And now they renamed it to Streak. And Streak's a much better name for it and differentiation. So it's the same mechanic, but different name. You get 1 Flame Arts, and if you streak it, you get 1 Inferno Rhapsody guaranteed. So this is just really good for chaining your Flame Arts together and getting whatever buff you have off the Rhapsody card. So really good. I don't think any deck's really going to throw this away. I just don't see it. It's a really good card, and it cycles. Epiphanies. Again, same with the first one. It's stronger version of the base, which is you get 2 Inferno Rhapsodies instead of 1, which is a lot better if you run maybe the Heaven's Fall variant, because you only have 6 of those, and they're stronger, so being able to draw those will be really good. Epiphany 2, you get 2 Flame Arts, and your streak is the next 2 times Flame Arts is activated, you get 2 more Flame Arts. Meaning that if you only have 2 other Infernal Rhapsodies and then you play this, like if you streak into it, you get your Flame Arts, and then you play like 1 Rhapsody, and it cycles over, and then you get 2 more Flame Arts, and then you play another Rhapsody, and so you can like play them out very fast and keep getting the extra attacks. So if you're going for just in general a ton of draw, or if you're going for like those extra attack Flame Art builds, then this is a really good one to have. The middle one, the third Epiphany, costs 1 Flame Arts for each Infernal Rhapsody in graveyard. This seems like it pairs pretty well with the Soliloquy one. The issue is just that, you know, again, you have to have the card when the Rhapsodies are in the graveyard specifically. So your best situation is going to be your turn starts, you happen to get a bunch of Rhapsodies, play all those out first, and then play this and get the value. Night Rain number 4. 2 Flame Arts. At the start of the turn, move this card to hand. This is arguably the best one, especially for Flame Art cycling, because it just comes back to your hand every turn. So if you want to go for those Flame Art builds where you get the extra attack and all that, then this bouncing back in your hand over and over is going to be really good. I am unsure if Descent triggers off movement, because move and draw are treated differently in the game, in case you didn't know. So for new players out here, if a card has not been used that turn, if it's in the draw pile or even the graveyard, and you play a draw card, it'll pull it back to you. So this is really good for someone like Nia, who gets extra attacks when she shuffles the deck. So you can force a card that you don't have in the deck to come back, and it puts the whole deck back together, shuffles it, and then you draw it out of it. So it's a draw either way. Move is not a draw mechanic. Move will pull it from wherever it is and just put it in your hand regardless of the deck state. Meaning that if you use this card, and it's in the use pile, although it says at the start of turn, so you can't really use it and then start the turn, but it's going to come back wherever it is. So it's not a draw, it just appears in your hand. But it's still really good. I think 4 is going to be really popular, and I think 2. I think 2 and 4 are going to be the most popular out of these. We'll see, but I think those are really good. And then the 5th one is, again, we need to see what the X cards are. You know, we need to see some really good X card strats, and I'm sure someone's going to pull it off. But with the 5th Epiphany here, you get 1 Flame Art, and if you streak into it, your next X card gets a +2. And it doesn't say till the end of turn or whatever. You can just keep doing this and keep putting +2 on your X cards, and we'll see why that's important. So I guess to round that out, 1's okay, 3 is, I think, the hardest to use. Number 2 and 4 are the most universal, so I could see people putting a lot of those in their decks, and then 5 has a lot of potential. And now, Soulfire Dance. This is the X card. Base version is you get 120% damage as X +1. X is the amount of AP you have left. It'll spend the rest of it. If you have 1 AP, it spends 1. If you have 2, it spends 2. If you have 10, it spends 10. And you get 120% damage, which isn't a ton, and it's X +1. So at worst, you can play this at 0 AP as 120 damage. The second half of the card is it draws X for that same AP, but there's no +1, which is why having these Epiphanies here that give you +2, or on Soliloquy, I think you get a +1, right, on this last one. Also, very thankful to the game designers who kind of lined up each one so it's the same Epiphany each time if you want to, like, make that kind of build, you know? If you want to go X card build, then Soliloquy 5, Night Rain 5, and then you get to Soulfire, you know, and then work from there. So that's just nice. That's they did the same thing with the middle one being the 1 cost also. They did it for the other one, so it's cool. I like that. It's just easier to keep track of, you know, when you think Epiphany 3, you know, it's like, oh, it's the one that always costs something. Or in the case of the Exorcist one, it costs 0. Anyway. I'm on Night Rain. I need to be on Soulfire. I'm actually not on Night Rain. I'm on Night Rain. You know, I was going to make an Elden Ring joke, but I already screwed it up and I'm on Soulfire, so I'm just... It's not going to. Alright, Soulfire is a good card. And as we look at the Epiphanies here, Epiphany 1, you get more bonus damage, so instead of 120, it's 180. That's a lot better. 120 is kind of ass, but it's also not upgraded, so having an upgrade where you get 180 is very good. And same thing with the X, it's just draw X cards. Number 2 is a unique attack, and it says 120% damage, X plus 1, so like the base version, except the second half is activate Infernal Rhapsody in Graveyard on the target for each hit count. So the way I'm understanding this is it's equal to the X cost. So if you have a bunch of Rhapsodies in the graveyard and you have like 3 AP and then you get the +1, it's gonna activate 4 of them. Not necessarily the biggest thing. Obviously you have to set that up. But if you can set it up, it's gonna pop off. But the thing that sticks out to me is this might be really good with the build of the 5th version of Exorcist, where you get these higher value Infernal Rhapsody Heavens. And so being able to hit those in the graveyard a second time is going to be really good. Like, you spend all of them, you get Soulfire, you hit it again, and that would be pretty freaking cool. Also of note, it's a unique card, so you can only have one in the deck. So if you want to dupe Soulfire, you have to do it before you get this version or the 5th version, because they're both unique. And then, even if it's Epiphany, you can dupe one of the other versions. You have 2 copies of it, and then you can re-roll it with the sphere item, the cores, that's what they're called. So you can re-roll it with a core, or you can re-roll it at the fire if you're still in Chaos. Otherwise, this is pretty cool. So I do want to try the Heaven's Fall deck, and this will definitely be like a key part of it. So you can really buff this up, and all you need is up to 6 to activate all 6 of them if you play them all like before you hit this. Number 3 is 180 damage again, and it increases the damage amount of the next Heaven's Fall by 50% for each hit count, up to 500. So that means when you get up to 10 hit counts on Soulfire Dance, you give your Heaven's Fall, your next Heaven's Fall, up to 500% damage. And I think that's per hit on the Heaven's Fall. I have to try this. I haven't tried this yet, but that's the theory crafting. And so if you were going to run something like this and you wanted to do that Heaven's Fall deck that I'm talking about, I think you'd have to do Soulfire first and get 1 copy of 2 and then 1 copy of 3. At least 1 copy of 3, but I think 2, like 1 of each is good enough. Although maybe they don't work with each other that well either because of like AP and the pluses and all that, so it'd be kind of hard to pull off. Yeah, interesting. More crafting to be done. Otherwise, I think these first 3 are fine enough. And obviously you need something specific to make use of it. But what I do think is highly universal in terms of what to use is the 4th Epiphany. So if you're unsure which one to get and keep, if you see this in Chaos, it's okay to hit this one, because this one's really good. And it's the most universal. So if you have any X+, you definitely want that. Otherwise, it draws X, does no damage. X Flame Arts times 2. So if you have 2 AP, and you put 2 AP into this, and then you multiply that by 2, you have 4 Flame Arts. And then you get Descent as a stack alongside it, meaning that this double dips. You draw cards, and then you get the Descent stacks with it. And that's really cool. So this could be really good for Heaven's Fall spamming, if you want to go that route, or extra attack Flame Art spamming. So there's a lot of good stuff here with that one. That's why I think it's the best one and most universal. Although, if you want to spam Flame Arts like with a copy of this, it's actually in your best interest to have 1 copy of the Soulfire upgrade for number 5, because it adds 1 hit to Flame Arts. So it's a unique card as well, like the second one, meaning you have to get 2 copies of Soulfire that are not unique, and then change 1 into the unique version. So if you really want to go that extra attack route and spam Flame Arts, which is totally viable and fun and really good, then I would advise trying to get 1 copy of this alongside one copy of this, because you only have to play the 2 cost once. And let's not forget that we have access to an Epiphany here, which I think it's on Soliloquy. It's not Night Rain. But now we come back full circle to number 4 for Soliloquy, where it draws 1 card, and if it's 2 or lower, it activates it and then draws 2. So you can, if you can find a way to set it up, or if you just happen to hit it, you can play your upgrade card for 0 cost and then draw 2 off it, which would be massive. So there are ways to make this really good. And then finally, her last card is Blazing War Dance. There are quite a few units in the game where you want to get rid of their final like mythic card or whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately too, just because they don't fit some deck archetypes like Mealtime on Narja. Some people even get rid of Malin's like Dive Kick. I forget what it's called, but that purple cost card or purple rarity card. But this one thankfully exhausts itself. So I don't think you need to necessarily remove this. It's just going to show up eventually. It might, if you really want to get super technical, it might screw up 1 or 2 draws out of all your draws. But then you hit it, and if you have a bunch of Descent, you can pull all your Inferno Rhapsodies back, and then just hit them again, and have some big turns. And then it exhausts itself. So this is pretty good to just stack up on big turns, especially if you have something like in save data, if you have like one of the Verdant Night Day pendants or the combination of them. So on even turns, it might be nice to play Blazing War Dance, pull everything back, and then get the big attack boost. All right, those are the cards, but now the Ego skill, she gets 8 Descent, which immediately gives her 1 Heaven's Fall. And then for 2 turns at the start of the turn, she gets 8 Descent. And it increases Heaven's Fall damage for the next Heaven's Fall by 100%. So if you want to stack this, going all the way back to the other cards where I think it's Night Rain. No. Is it Soliloquy? It's always Soliloquy, I feel like. It's the most versatile one. No. Anyway, so eventually you'll go back and it's Soulfire. So, I mean, that would work really good here, but even then, just having any bonus damage on Heaven's Fall is good. So if you want to spam a bunch of Heaven's Falls and get Descent stacks and all that, there's a lot of ways to do it, but her Ego skill is just good overall. Specifically because she gets it 3 times. The first one's the one that's boosted, but then the next 2 turns, she gets 8 Descent. So you get 3 Heaven's Falls out of it, which is pretty good. That's pretty good. For save data, I went pretty basic with this first one, talking about, right, the Soulfire Dance, where you get 4 and 5 together. So you have to duplicate it, and then epiph it, and then epiph the other one. And also, that's pretty much been it. So, using the 4th Exorcist here, and that's an extra attack build, but I'm kind of realizing that I don't think I want this. Like, this build's solid. It's fine. If you need just something that works, like, this is a simple way to do it. Simple's in, like, quotation marks, because, it might be a little weird to learn how to play her at first, but it makes sense. You start getting to the point where you just play cards and draw cards and then play those. So if you want to do something basic, there's this. And in terms of the Season 4 mechanics, we have Desire cards. I think Inquiry is going to be our best one, because it makes the most sense with her. I believe it's a Ranger archetype anyway for a Desire card. And then at the same time, this specific one gives her draw. So you have 3 levels of Inquiry cards, and they get stronger the higher they are. But they cap at level 3. And I should probably talk about the full season mechanics and something else, but there are a lot of Desire cards, and you can, I think, keep them as one type, or you can hybridize them and make them like 2 of one and then 1 of the other. That's important to know because of what's on the side here. So if you want to go a lot of draw and status effects, I think Inquiry is really good specifically for Fae, because whenever you draw a card, 1 random effect of Weaken or Vuln or Agony on a random enemy 3 times the turn. A little bit inconsistent if you want to run Cursed Corpse as a fragment set, but it's an option. And you might get this, you know. But there are other ways to get Agony too that aren't Tressa. You can get Agony on certain cards. It's like, you know, per turn, it'll put 2 Agony up or something like that. So if you have 3 levels, so just 1 level 3 card, you get access to this. If you get up to level 5 of Inquiry cards, when a harmful effect is applied to an enemy, 30% chance to draw a card, and that happens 3 times a turn. As well as the random debuff happens 3 times a turn, meaning that if you are able to get up to 5, so that means someone else has to have an Inquiry that goes up to at least 2, then you're really fueling all of Faye's stuff that she needs by giving her access to drawing extra cards. So harmful effect, extra card, descent, more damage, or some other utility card. So really good overall. Plus the card itself draws. If you get up to 7, that means the whole party has to have Inquiry in some capacity. So either 2 3s and like a hybrid, or 1 3 and 2 hybrids, I guess, if you have like 2 2s. Anyway, I haven't done that yet, but if you get up to 7, when an Inquiry card is used, you get 1 desire stack for each. Or no, for each stack. And if you get 10 stacks, you get access to a card called Desire Manifestation Inquiry, and I can't see what this card is, so I don't know what it is yet. But I'm assuming it's good if you're going to go through all the work of making an Inquiry deck. When you're building Fae, there's going to be a couple choices you can have. Primarily 2 archetypes, but like 3 versions. One's going to be just a draw engine, like Veronica. Okay, so that's like a really close comparison as Veronica, but she has conditionals. And she has more damage than Veronica, because a lot of Veronica decks just trim down to repose spam. Or you can go just like value normal damage, not focusing too much on extra attacks. Or you can go extra attack damage, which my fragments kind of support that, but I don't really want to do that. Now that I'm looking at this, I want to make a new deck for her where it's all drawing. And I'm going to tell you why. Of course I'm going to tell you why. But in this game and a lot of other RPGs of this nature, if it's live service, the fastest thing to get phased out is damage, especially on a seasonal thing like this. So once season 4 is over and the game doesn't cater to Fae as much anymore, her damage will go back to normal. It may seem insane now, but it'll go back to still really good levels, honestly. Like, she is really good overall, but, you know, if you're using her for, like, hard seasonal content, she's gonna fall off. It's not gonna feel good, most likely. The exception are limited units, so Haiti Mary and Serenial are still, like, the top 2 damage dealers, and they're not going anywhere. Like, they transcend the seasonal structure with how powerful they are. Like, they still had stuff catered to them, obviously, but they're incredibly strong outside of that. Like, I use them for pretty much anything else, and they still do really well. So that in mind, I think the draw builds on Fae are going to age better. So if you just want to get like 1 build this season and then just stop, you know, and you don't want to farm it next season, I would go for a good draw build. That'll let her be more flexible and fit into more teams going forward. Memory Fragments, the 2-2-2 setup is easy, it's good, and it's always good to have a couple versions of 2-2-2 on hand. So 2 for Executioner, 2 for Blackwing, and then 2 can be another 2-piece set like Cursed Corpse or what is it? Seth's, I guess. No, not Seth's. No. I'm using healers right now though. The issue is you don't get like a super powerful effect as you would from the 4-piece of a set. However, since the 2-2-2 sets are just really good and simple and effective, it's in your best interest to farm a couple of these and then have like really good slot 5s for different people that you can move around. Otherwise, the rest of this stays the same. You know, you have a bunch of crit, attack, all the stats you want. If you're going to run a different set, actually, let me look through these. So I did a lot of crit as best I could anyway, so this gear's not the top that it could be, obviously, but it's still pretty good. And so you just want crit and damage, and you want enough attack to get to 700. So extra damage is kind of a premium. You don't need that necessarily in large amounts unless you want to go that build. Make sure you're going for crit and crit damage. Those are always like your best damage scalers after 700 attack. And if you're doing like a full 2-2-2 set, you could run off pieces, you know, just really powerful off pieces, you know, after your Executioner and Blackwing. But I do like to have another set. So you're going to have some random Healer's Journey pieces and Tetras and all that. You're going to have some random pieces out there for 2 sets that actually do good. But if I can consistently get Agony up, I will switch these out for Curse Corpse. But not right now. Yeah, so you want crit chance on your slot 4, void damage on your slot 5, obviously, and then attack damage on your slot 6. And then as much crit chance so you at least get to 50, and then any crit damage, extra attack, and whatever else you can fit in. But your benchmarks are 700 attack and 50 crit. And then everything else after that is a bonus. And then at least maybe like 160 crit damage, but my crit damage isn't super good. Although we do have the potential, so it's up to 180. So 180 is usually a soft spot to get to in terms of crit. Ego Manifestations, I don't have her more than 1 copy, but if you're gonna pull her, if you like the character, just do what you want. If you want to go all the way to 6, go to 6. If you're looking for value, it's usually getting to 2. 2 for almost every character is like a great stopping point because they usually get some really big buff at 2. But her first one is increases Inferno Rhapsody damage, move to hand by 100%. That's pretty good. But this is also a card you only use 1 time in a fight, so it's not necessarily gonna win every game ever made. Her Ego Manifestation 2 is starting the battle, she gets 6 Descent, and the first Heaven Fall being created, she gets 2 more Descent. And with Infernal Rhapsody, it gains the chance of doing fixed damage with 30% chance. So that is overall just a really big damage buff. And even if you're running her as a card draw engine, you're always going to have Inferno Rhapsody. And then the next part that's really nice is since Heaven's Fall is a card that exhausts after you play it, you make damage on that turn, and then you get to play it, and then it's gone. So you don't have to really worry about anything. You know, it's not clogging your deck with junk. The third Ego Manifestation is always something for their Ego skill that gets buffed. In this case, she gets the Descent from it by 2, and then 2 hits the next Heaven's Fall. That's a lot. That's actually really powerful. There are quite a few Manifestation 3s that aren't like high impact, but this is really good. 4, 80% damage to Heaven's Fall. That's massive. And then 5 is always +3 to card levels, and then 6 is always something insane too. At the start of battle, 120% damage to Flame Arts at the start of battle, or each time 3 Heaven's Fall cards are used, gain 1 Judgment upon the Wicked. So she gets an entirely new mechanic and different buff. Judgment upon the Wicked, add 3 hits to Heaven's Fall. When the effect is activated, remove it. So she gets 120% damage to Flame Arts, the procs in general, and then at the start of the battle, she gets Judgment, and then after that, each time 3 Heaven's Fall cards are used, she gets another Judgment. So what that means is the first one gets boosted, and then after 3 Heaven's Falls, it gets boosted again. That's really good. But that's whale territory. So if you're looking to maximize it, if you really like her, I would stop at 2. You're going to absorb extra copies as time goes on, just pulling on random banners. Now we'll talk about teams, and honestly, theory crafting is like one of my favorite things about this game, because I think there are so many just awesome team combinations out there, because I know there are tier lists like Pride Win and all that, but honestly, a lot of characters can be insane if you give them the right stuff. And as we saw with Renoa, when Diana got introduced to the game, Renoa went way up in terms of power because Diana enabled her so well. And that's going to be something that always happens. A new character comes into the game, and some other character that seemed kind of weak actually pairs with them super well. With that said, though, I think that for your shells, like your outer units and then stuff you like change in or whatever, I think Faye and Nia are going to be really good. But even then, your support slot is very flexible. So if you're using Faye as damage or even draw, you have things like the Soliloquy that dump 1 cost or higher cards. Who makes a ton of 1 cost bullets? Actually, I should go back to the screen here. All right. Or sorry, hold up. All right, going back here, the save data. So Renoa makes bullets. She gets a ton of bullets from Echo. She gets a ton of bullets from the Flower. And you can run things like Dimensional Cube with her. So if you have someone like Faye, you can keep drawing out Renoa's bullets and discarding them with Soliloquy, for example. And so Renoa's always getting the extra attack damage, but then also the bullets aren't as likely to flood the deck as they normally are. They still will flood the deck eventually, especially if you go, you know, like on a Great Rift boss or something. You go 10 turns in, she's gonna have a ton of bullets. So you always want some way to thin them out. So if you're going to run Renoa in that situation, I'd probably run this Ballad, where it exhausts all the Dirge bullets in the graveyard. But there are a lot of ways to deal with it. So, and the other reason Nia's really good with Renoa here is that Nia's ego skill discards the entire deck at one time. So if you go all the way back and you have a ton of bullets, you have like 20 bullets on the deck, you can hit her skill and it discards the whole thing and shoots all of them. But we're not talking about Renoa. I just love Renoa. So this is just one example. Like if I keep Nia here just to show what you can do, you have the ability to target draw combatant cards if you run this Adagio. I know this one's not as popular as it used to be. People like to run the exhaust one and then use the Glory's Reign set because that's an exhausting skill card. But I still think this one's really good. Meaning that if you need to get someone's specific cards, you don't have to worry about the bullets, you can discard one of Faye's cards and it's going to pull 2 Faye's cards out of the deck and not worry about the bullets. Or Faye can do it herself. There's a lot of stuff there, and being able to use Nia. Like, Nia's such a good support. I think she's like the top support right now. It's hard to say, but she really came back in Season 3 and just does amazing things. But you can also run Cassius here. Cassius, another great support, likes to give you a lot of morale, can still move cards in and out of the deck. He has Joker, and overall pretty cool, especially with the quest system. So Cassius also really good. Ray, really good for this situation too, like especially if you want damage dealer Faye, because Ray has access to her Resonating Darkness, where she can buff 0 cost cards, 1 cost cards, or void cards with her different epiphanies. So Ray can give a lot of bonus damage. And if you have her potentials and stuff all built up, her Predator Blade is 4 morale. And if you're running Faye, your cards cost 0 or X, meaning that you can run the Predator's Blade too. In fact, if you want to talk about supports in general here, just real quick, just looking at them, Ray and Cassius are really good because they remove their own cards over time. Ray has upgrades, for example, especially if you do something like Condensation, but people don't run this anymore. However, Resonating Darkness, really good. So if you want to run this, play it, really good. Snack Time exhausts itself, so it'll run out of the deck eventually. If you have gear bags, they run out of the deck. And then you're just left with, like, Predator Blade, and if you have Strike, then you have Strike in there. But that's it. So Ray can thin out the rest of her deck as she's playing. And then if you compare that to also another support, Cassius. Cassius, same kind of deal. You know, he has upgrades with Dice Trick, Popper, likes to use a lot of common cards that exhaust. And then you're just stuck with Cycle after all of that, right? Your shuffles exhaust out. Then you just have Double Dice and Jokers. So same thing like Ray. He'll play out the rest of his cards, and then he has Cycle for the rest of it too. Nia, as much as I love her, Nia is really good at cycling. However, Nia actually doesn't get rid of her cards in most builds. So Nia's always going to have a couple of Adagios laying around, and if you have a forbidden version like Eternal Hunger, then she's going to have that too. And you have to have a way to get rid of it as well. So in terms of those, if you want to really thin out the deck and make it super efficient, then Ray and Cassius are better than Nia. But if you want to cycle the deck over and over, Nia's better for that too. They're all good. That's what I'm trying to get at too. But other supports you're going to see are obviously Mika. Everyone should have Mika. This is a really good one to build up. In fact, if you're a new player, I would build up all the 4-star supports. They're all good. They're all really good. And everyone uses them today. And then for other support units, one to consider is, I wouldn't do Orlea just because Heaven's Fall and all that's going to eat through the Vulns very quickly, but you can get a lot of damage stacking off Orlea too. The next one that might be surprising is Adelheid. We got Adelheid last season after Haiti Mary, and the community calls Haiti Mary HDMI, which I think is hilarious, and then they called Adelheid ADHD. They have HDMI and ADHD, and Tenebria didn't get a nickname because it's Tenny. But yeah, something I think is really good with having Adelheid here, I was going to call her ADHD, but Adelheid has a really good card right here. So this version of Once Upon a Time, you can pick a card in the draw pile and give it Blessing. And then she can always draw Blessing cards specifically. So Adelheid is actually another specific draw engine if you can put blessings on stuff. And that'd be really good for someone such as Faye. You're going to run Faye, because that way you can put blessings on your good cards like Soliloquy, Soulfire, or even your Inquiry, your Desire card rather. And then Adelheid can pull them out. Even if you, again, do something like with Renoa and you have a bunch of bullets, or you fight some boss that floods the deck like Colossus used to with the poisons, and you just get to pull out specific cards that you want. So I think that's going to be super good, but I don't know where the application's going to be, where you need something like that, but I'm sure someone's going to figure it out. That's why I like the theory crafting here, because I got to this part before when I was drafting the video, and just so many things work very well for her. Since she's Void also, if you want to go Void route and damage with Ray, that gives you access to Rin, possibly. A lot of people like Rin. So you can have Rin builds where Rin's hardest issue is to draw the cards she needs so you can keep doing the Dark Mist stuff. But now you have a Void draw engine that's really helpful. You could use Veronica, but now you can also use Faye. And that keeps in theme with the Void theme, because I'm going to keep pointing back to Ray's ability to buff Void card damage. So it doesn't matter what the cost is, she can buff all Void cards. To an extent, that enables Kairon too. But that's with Ray, that's not so much anything else. But you could. You could even try and fit Kairon in there if you wanted to. Chizuru, one of my favorite units. Sadly not like a really great unit, but just an example here. You can do something like a good Oni Hunt build and then drop the cost to 0. And then that way, you don't discard the cards with Faye. So you can run something like this. This entire deck costs 0 except for the Shadow of the Moon, which is just Shadow of the Moon. That's another good idea. But since she plays a lot of skills too for drawing those cards, and her cards cost 0, she's really good with the follow-up attack, like the extra attack friends, like Hugo and Selena. So people call this driving when you make them spam a bunch of extra attacks. So she's a really good driver for Hugo and Selena as well. And that's just if you want to have her doing damage a lot too. If you just run her as a draw engine, you could probably slap her into any team and she's going to find something to do. That's why I'm really excited for her future. I think Faye's going to age very well as a unit. So I usually hesitate to use the term must pull, but I think that if you end up getting Faye, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Alright, y'all, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I always love talking about CZN. I hope that If you did enjoy it and you want to talk about Faye, go ahead and drop a comment. You know, if you have other questions or if you have other ideas or something I missed, because I do miss stuff, it would just be nice to hear from you. And if you want more CZN content, what form do you want it in? You know, do you want more character guides? Do you want more just breakdowns, gameplay stuff? I don't know. Otherwise, yeah, as far as Faye goes, great unit. And I think she's going to do very well. But otherwise, that's it for me. And thanks for watching again. And I'll see you next time.